Oh, you're right about the lights.
Yeah, it's a real deal.
Well, what's going to happen is these are going to transition.
Well, good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you to the State of the Industry discussion. My name is Jim Heeb with the Natural Stone Institute, and what I love most about this session is the opportunity to share and talk about some big picture topics that the industry is tackling. And I have with us several of our industry leaders who are serving in the capacity of being on the board of directors for the Natural Stone Institute. But if you were intending on being in the State of the Industry session, you're in the right place. So a couple of housekeeping items. We want to remind everybody, if you have a cell phone, please mute it as a courtesy to all those in attendance. And I want to remind everyone, for all of the design professionals that are with us today, whether you are here to earn AIA credit or if you are part of the interior design group to get IDCEC approved credits, all of the paperwork and all of the stuff that you need is on the table in the entrance, and we encourage you to take care of that as you're filing out. So today's session, we've really got three learning objectives. We're going to be talking about kind of some of the most pressing issues in the industry. You're going to have an opportunity to learn from some of your industry peers who are in leadership positions tackling those issues. And really what we're also all about is talking about best practices to tackle some of these topics. So we have our panelists today, Buddy Antra, Dwayne Nakan, Katie Jensen, and Bob Zavagno. And I'm going to ask each of them just to give a little bit background about themselves. And Buddy, can we start with you?
Sure. As Jim said, my name is Buddy Antra. I'm a small fabricator in Bridgeport, Connecticut, credited with the NSI, Natural Stone Institute, and been working with natural stone for close to 40 years.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Dwayne Nakan with Stone Interiors in Columbia, South Carolina. We're a medium to large fabricator. We do about 60, 70 kitchens a week, primarily big box and wholesale kind of customers. I'm actually second generation in the business. I haven't been in it for 40 years because I'm not quite as old as Buddy, but and then
You'll get there.
I'm on the executive committee and all as well. So,
Katie?
Yeah, hi, welcome. My name is Katie Jensen. I'm the president and co-owner of Triton Stone Group. It's a natural stone and quartz slab distributor, and we also sell retail tile and sinks. We have 22 locations in the Southeast, and we cover Virginia to Texas. It's also a family business. I've been in the business 15 years, which makes me younger, which is great. And I've been, really involved with the Natural Stone Institute for 3 years now. It's my first year on the executive board, and it's just such a pleasure to give back to the industry that's really provided for my family and our company.
And Bob?
Bob Zavagno, Cleveland Marble. We've been in business since 1924. We do nothing but install material, just natural stone. We don't cut it, polish it, buy it, nothing, just the muscle. We work all over the country, and we have an office in Cleveland, Chicago, and Los Angeles. And any natural stone, we'll install any we don't do tile, we don't do anything else, just natural stone. Inside, outside, a ceiling, a floor, it doesn't matter. High rise, low rise, doesn't matter. That's what we do.
So just by a show of hands, how many of you are in the natural stone business today? How many are doing tile? Other alternative materials? Just by show of hands, thank you. What's nice about having Dwayne and Katie and Buddy and Bob with us is we really cross several industry segments. We've got countertop fabricators, we've got commercial installer, we've got stone distributor. But how many of you noticed that there's actually a fifth person on the stage? Okay.
I noticed.
Hey, look, there's a guy over there.
And it is my pleasure to present Mike Pico, who is our board president for the Natural Stone Institute. Mike hails from Toronto, Canada. And if you know anything about the logistics of Canada travel right now, we had no idea Mike was even going to be able to make this trip. And so just fortunate to have him. And I know, Mike, you wanted to extend a welcome and introduce yourself as well.
Thanks for making it. Thanks for making it.
Yeah, it was a last-minute decision because until July 5th, we still had to quarantine for 14 days when we were returning home. So I said to Jim, I'm not missing 14 days of golf. So if the quarantine's lifted, I'll make my way down here, which I did, and I'm really happy to be here. it's nice to see people face to face in a setting like this again, and it's nice to get back to some kind of normalcy. So I'm looking forward to conversations, meeting and greeting many of you, and sharing some of our thoughts today. I'm the president of Pico Engineering. We're a consulting firm and do work all across North America, and our work is primarily related to anything natural stone, whether it's testing, engineering, providing shop drawings, shop tickets. We kind of touch the whole industry. So, and I've been in it for about 35 years. You can tell by the gray hair. I'm not as young as some of these other ones here on the stage.
So obviously you can imagine that we made all the accommodations we can to have Mike, and we're glad to have you with us. So before we get started, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to share one additional thought. And as we start to transition out of COVID-19, what is your primary concern for our industry in the next 12 to 18 months? And so kind of in 60 seconds or less, rapid fire. Mike, you go first. Biggest concern.
As a consulting firm, my biggest concern is going to be people. We have people, but they've been used to working at home for a year and a half now, and transitioning back to an office environment where we need collaboration, we need that teamwork and brainstorming. We have a bit of resistance to some of the staff wanting to return to an office environment and pushing for more remote work. So from that perspective, that may affect us, but I'm hearing manpower in general is going to be, on all fronts, I think is going to be a challenge moving out of the COVID into a very rapid environment, I think.
Show of hands, how many of you echo that sentiment? Thank you. Buddy.
Oh, I thought we were going to go in line here. I'd have to say that, you know, number one, the biggest concern would be like a relapse of this whole COVID thing, and it, you know, becomes stronger or whatever it might be. I'm not, you know, actively really concerned or worried about it, but if it does happen, how is that going to affect us again? I do primarily single-family homes, which, as many of you probably know, has just exploded in the last year and a half, that type of work. And other than, the virus, coming back, but I think about when things level off, if they level off, and keeping the personnel, not, they might, jump somewhere else or whatever, the personnel that I have, which are very skilled, but I've been working them pretty hard, and, what's going to happen when things get back to a normal workflow.
Dwayne, your biggest concern next 12 to 18 months?
Same concept. Once again, people, two ways. One, in terms of getting more bodies in the door. We cannot get people to even show up for interviews right now, much less have the staffing we need. Our volume levels are up, 50%, and we don't have the bodies to do it. We're pushing everyone. Second side of that is fatigue of our current employees. They're stretched to the limit trying to finish and achieve what we're getting in terms of order rates, and they're burning out quickly. So we're teetering on that edge if we don't get some relief in terms of being able to get some people back to work and looking for jobs, where we're not going to be able to hire anyone and we're going to start losing people.
Katie.
I think for me, it's not more around, but the rising cost of freight that we're seeing on importing everything. It's not just natural stone; it's really literally any product coming into the United States. Thankfully, our industry has been in this little bubble, and I believe I speak for everyone. It's been really strong demand. What happens when that demand falls off and we're sitting on products that are 50, 60, 70% more expensive than they were pre-COVID? So what does that look like? What does that look like for inventories we might be sitting on? And what does that do? Some materials might replace others after this all settles out.
Bob, biggest concern?
Glass, drywall, paint, wallpaper, anything else that's going to ruin my business because nobody wants stone anymore. That's my concern today, tomorrow, and forever. I am always terrified. When I first started in this business in the mid-'80s, they were building stone high-rises all over the place. They used to build them 3 at a time in Houston and in Atlanta and in New York. There's nothing but glass today. And that is my biggest concern, is that natural stone is going to fall out of favor.
So additionally, one of the things that we do at the Institute is we do a lot of surveying our members, and we're going through a series of surveys right now, and some of the themes that are coming up and some of the topics that our leadership team has been tackling on behalf of the industry include, the short list is sustainability, setting up global standards, reaching architects. So what we want to do is discuss some of these issues and how you as a board of directors are dealing with them. So Dwayne, let's start with you, and the first topic is sustainability, the slide we have up on the screen. Some of you in our audience, how many of you are familiar with the fact that there is a ANSI standard for sustainability? Show of hands. Okay, so just by the show of hands, we got some work to do to let people know about it, so thank you for being with us today. But you saw the hands that were raised, you saw how many people are familiar with the fact that there are North American companies now gaining that ANSI sustainability standard. We're trying to educate the design community about it, and because it's important. Dwayne, would you just kind of give a high-level overview of what that standard's all about?
Well, as you noticed, I didn't raise my hand saying I knew about it, so I'll just have to make it up as we go. But much like, I don't know how many of you are familiar with our accreditation standard that we have for fabricators. The sustainability standard is similar in that it is a third-party verification of the standards that you're achieving at your business, in this case, in quarrying and production sides. It tracks all sorts of things that range from water, energy, transportation, chemicals, land reclamation, safety, corporate governance, all sorts of different topics to help ensure that the products that are going out are meeting the sustainability levels that we want. Additionally, those standards help contribute towards the various LEED credits and other green building concepts that are being looked for in the commercial environment. So that's a standard we've taken control of about within the past year. So we're going to be making a really big push over the next few months on that in terms of trying to get more awareness out there about it, get more quarries, more companies certified and working with that standard.
And I think one of the things I've heard Dwayne when he's talked about this with other audiences, you've mentioned anytime you're going through a credential, it makes you a better company.
Exactly.
Mike, why is this all important from your perspective, sustainability?
I truly think it's an opportunity. To Bob's point, alternate materials have replaced stone in a lot of construction, especially exterior facades. Even in Toronto in the 80s was a boom. Every single high-rise had stone on it. And now, to Bob's point, they're all glass. But with sustainability being so important in the design community right now, energy efficiency, they're moving away from all glass facades because they're not energy efficient. They're going with more solid walls with window strips or punch windows or whatever. They're starting to eliminate some of that. And it's an opportunity for stone right now because stone is probably the most sustainable material out there. So telling that story, getting the information out to the design community, I think we need to capture this opportunity right now because it could spell a big growth opportunity for stone to make that comeback now on several fronts. So, I see that as a great opportunity for us as an industry right now.
One of the things, if you notice on the screen, there's a website address, and I encourage all of you to go look at that to learn more. And a couple things you're going to find when you go there is, how many of us are familiar with U.S. Green Building Council? There's also credits you can get through LEED version 6. Living Building Challenge has also recognized this standard. So we want to encourage all of you to go learn about it. And I mentioned that there are North American companies that are working on this standard, but there's also, to the credit of a lot of the promotion we're starting to do now, is there are companies outside of North America that are also looking to acquire that standard. So as Dwayne mentioned, the standard used to be owned by the Natural Stone Council. The Natural Stone Institute took ownership of it in February, and we're just going to continue to add to the promotion and so forth. Mike, anything you'd like to add?
again, leading on with the sustainability is EPDs, which are very important, and we're working on that. We've got a committee right now, which are environmental product declarations. And what we're really trying to do is rally the international community to really approach this as a global initiative, because natural stone comes from all over the world, and rather than each association and each country working individually to develop these things, we really should be trying to rally together and create a global initiative by pooling all our resources together and approaching it as an industry rather than a bunch of fragmented approaches to it. So I think that would be, again, a big opportunity for us as an industry to really take advantage of this right now.
And you may be asking yourself, well, I don't know a lot about environmental product declarations. That's all new to me. Trust me when we say all the building products out there are working on it, and we need to make sure that we position natural stone. Are there any questions from the audience about sustainability or the work that's underway? Again, we want to encourage you to go and learn more about what that work has done. As we transition to another topic that you're going to see and read more about, is that there is an effort underway to develop a global standard for natural stone. Just 18 months ago, the International Standards Organization, or ISO, actually rolled out a plan that they were going to create a standard. It was going to be orchestrated in Europe, and they were going to combine natural stone and engineered stone together into one standard. And we took the stance of lobbying ISO to say, both are prominent building products, no doubt, but if you want to add confusion to the marketplace, we really need to separate these into two standards, and we were in fact successful at making that happen. Bob, you were president during the middle of this, and we were talking to ISO and collaborating with our associations around the world. Any perspectives?
Well, it was terrific that it was able to be separated. I mean, Jim fought very hard, our whole organization fought very hard, because it's not just in the US, it's not just in North America, it's the whole world needs to know that there's a difference between natural stone and engineered materials. And ISO, it was so important for us to get them separated, and we were able to do that. And since that's happened, I mean, when I was president and this was going on, there was always talk, from some of the members that, why can't we just let this go? Why are we working so hard to get this separated? But now that 18 months or 2 years has gone by, in the rearview mirror, I can't believe how important it is. It was one of those things, there's some of the members were like, well, we work with those materials, so we should, be able to do it. Or other countries don't follow what we do, or the Asian people or the people in Europe don't follow what we do. But to have it all under one umbrella, now looking back 18 months later or 2 years later, was incredibly important to get them separated.
And I think the key there is, so everyone understands, and this is the message that we're going to take out to the industry, is first and foremost, the Natural Stone Standard is being led by the Natural Stone Institute. Our board of directors authorized that. Our technical director, Chuck Muehlbauer, just accepted a 5-year chairmanship for that committee. But we're also working in tandem with the group that's also working on the engineered stone standard, so that where there are parallels, we can identify them, and where there's not. So that effort continues. But I want to thank this leadership team for saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our industry to say, if in fact we're going to create a global standard for natural stone, that this organization needed to lead it, and that effort is underway. Katie, once we're done with the standard, what will we have accomplished from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in this room is either fiscally or emotionally connected to natural stone, right? And one thing that's so exciting about our industry, that it is so global. However, it's very fragmented, and there's lots of different, procedures and ways that things happen across the world. So I think the ISO standard is something that's going to be able to bring everyone together and have a set group, a set listing of, how things should work, how it should be installed. It really will help, from the couriers to the fabricators to the distributors, alleviate any issues or problems. The stone's too thick, it's too thin. We can all have something to fall back on, whereas before, that really wasn't out there, right? You kind of dealt with issues based on relationships. So I think having this ISO standard behind us should help, solidify natural stone's place, in the market, hopefully for years to come.
And just to add to that conversation, because some of you may not have been involved in the creation of an ISO standard, it's going to take about 3 years. And I like to say, because pretty much everyone knows about the Dimension Stone Design Manual, which we consider to be the Bible for natural stone, but there are also other best practice documents in other countries that are used. And so this is our one chance to bring all those best practice documents together. And I've described it as it's the Dimension Stone Design Manual on steroids. But if you're all asking, and again, there's a website address on the screen for you to learn more, but how long is it going to take? It's going to take about 3 years. And if you are involved in any of the other standards organizations around the globe, please come see us afterwards, because we are in fact collecting all of the standards documents from around the world. Believe it or not, there's been over 150 already turned in, and we know there's still more out there, so we're excited to be working on that. Any questions from the audience about the ISO standard or kind of the work that's underway? All right, our next topic that we're going to transition to, and then we're going to open it up for a little bit of discussion about labor and what's going on in the labor world. But probably my favorite topic is promotion and the work that we are doing as an industry to promote natural stone to the design community. And really, we got to remember, and I think all of us know it, who specifies the stone? It's the architects, it's the designers. And so it's really an important topic to us. And Buddy, can you share some perspectives about the work that's underway?
Yeah, how many of you do not work with an architect or designer? So everybody does, right? And how many of those designers ask you, well, quartz is the same, or whatever it might be, So, there is this myth out there that natural stone, I'm not going to say it's a myth, but one of the competing products has spent a lot of money marketing how great their product is and how it's so much better than natural stone, especially some of the softer materials that we use. The best way that I have found is to, get them educated. And a show like this, TICE, Marmamac, has plenty of education. As Jim mentioned in the beginning, you can get your CEU credits, so you can encourage your design professional partners, whether they're AIA or ASID or NKBA, to attend one of these shows. Just last week, I was working with one of my trade partners, and she's an ASID interior designer. And I told her I was going to be away for a week. We'll talk about your project next week. And she said, how do I get to go to one of those? And I gave her some links and stuff. And the education is right here. They get the credits. Same thing with, you can go online through our website and to Architectural Record, an architectural magazine that's pretty prominent in North America. There's 8 or so courses there that you can get and get your credits. A lot of this stuff is available online. It doesn't have to be in an audience style or the lunch and learns that we've learned about. Plus, we have 15 courses that we can get ourselves oriented pretty easily through the Natural Stone Institute to provide to our trade professionals, whether we go and sit in their conference room with a laptop or we get to do an audience sort of thing. I've done a few audience things with like the NKBA and at some facilities through the Institute. We host some things, regional events that might be a great learning experience. And the important thing is that we educate that end user, and sometimes we have to do it through that agent of sale, which might be the architect, the builder, or the design professional.
As Buddy was talking about the 8 courses that are online or the over 15 courses that you can deliver in person, on the screen are some of the website addresses so that you can jot them down. /academy will get you to the 8 online classes, and /CEU will get you to the 15 in-person classes. And while these were developed for the design community, they're also great learning as you onboard people into your own stone companies. Great learning. And Buddy, let me add one more resource. Many of us have access to a design school, whether it be a school for architects, kitchen and bath dealers, interior designers. We also have a student kit which was developed for the faculty, because we all know how many hours of training do young architects coming out of school have about natural stone? It's not as much as we would like. So this is really a turnkey resource for that faculty member. So if any of you have access to a design school in your community, come see us, because we'd love your help in introducing that student kit to that design faculty member so that we can get those young students to love natural stone from the start. Bob, you've heard us talk about resources, perspectives from your point of view.
Got to get out there, got to press the flesh. The naturalstoneinstitute.org is a great spot. Push it on architects, push it on designers. There's also the Building Stone magazine, which is the last stone-only magazine that I think still comes out in print. Make sure those are on everybody's table the next time you go to an architect's office. A lot of times when I meet architects, they don't even know as much about natural stone as you think. So we got to get them educated. We got to get designers educated. And the great place to send them is naturalstoneinstitute.org, or to give them the magazine, or to, if you got to buy some of them and deliver them, whatever it takes to get these architects thinking about natural stone.
Buddy, you wanted to add one more thing?
Yeah, we have the Institute has this website called usenaturalstone.org, which has well over 150, 160 articles on natural stone. Some, one that comes to mind right away is the quartz versus quartzite. The end user, the homeowner, may have some confusion on that. Quartzite is the natural product, quartz is the man-made product. But quartzite sounds like it's like from a Transformers movie or something like that, So, the verbiage and stuff may be confusing to some end users. These articles, I point a lot of my customers, whether they're homeowners or design professionals, in this direction so they can learn about what it is that they're looking at and maybe dispel some of those myths that may be out there. The most important thing is that our customer base are educated and know what they're getting.
So far we've kind of talked about some of the big picture topics of industry sustainability. We've talked about global standards. Everything we've just talked about are resources that are available to all of you. Please take advantage of them. Take them back to your companies. Utilize them, because they've been developed over a number of years for you to better connect with the design community. Any questions about the work that's being done to promote stone to the design community? And because this is being recorded, I'm bringing you back the mic to ask, okay?
Thank you. I'm Tawa, TCNA. I'm a research investigator as well as a university professor. How much of the research done by researchers around the world, universities and everybody else's, there are hundreds of thousands of papers, information available. How do you kind of use that information? I find it sometimes they're underused, and they have lots of resources that's available on the worldwide available, easy access, and tremendous resources. How do you use that?
Yeah, I think one of the themes that you just mentioned is there's a lot of resources out there, and it's getting people to realize that they're there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that our board leadership has encouraged us at a staff level to do, is to give stone companies the easy button as much as we can. Use natural stone, it's easy to remember. There's 160 articles there. We're producing 3 to 4 articles every month. From an education standpoint, our friends from Stone World Magazine are here. We have an ongoing series of educational sessions that we do around the world. We're active at the trade show, but that concern you have is one that's going to be around for a while. It's constantly telling the story. Anything else that any of you would like to add about how we do this? Hopefully I summarized it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just, to Jim's point, the Natural Stone Institute, everything's open source, right? So everything that's produced or created, we want to spread out to the entire industry, whether you're a member or not. It's about furthering along the natural stone industry, and there's so much education. There's a full-blown university you can utilize for your employees or for yourself if you want to grow your knowledge of natural stone. So, I think it has to start with the members, who are obviously passionate enough to become a member, and then they promote that to, acquaintances and people you work with.
The website I had mentioned, usenaturalstone.org, out of those 100 and some odd articles, if you have a particular project going on and even want to get some ideas, I'll use the fireplaces. You want to do a fireplace. You're a countertop fabricator, you might want to do it at a slab, or if you're a hardscape professional, you'll see some ideas with the field stone or thin stone or whatever, and just get that. So there is a whole variety, a big variety of stuff that you can find there.
And one of the things that we didn't mention in this presentation, but we talked about Use Natural Stone being a lot of articles that are to inspire the design community and consumers to use natural stone. Also on the website is over 300 documents on the technical side. Mm-hmm. So there's an entire library to research, and it's not just technical documents that we've produced. We also are housing some that have been produced by others. So we'll just constantly tell that story and share that message.
And let me add one more thing, Jim. Some of our live webinars that we've done, they're available on demand after the fact. So if you're unable to attend one in your office or whatever on a particular day, you can go back and see and just watch that, get that information you need if you missed it.
So how many of you love the slide that's up right now? As you look at that, what's keeping you up at night, okay? And one of the ones that Michael, you mentioned, we talked a little bit about the labor source and so forth, but let's talk about it. So let's transition to the topic of labor shortages and workforce development. Dwayne, we were all together 3 weeks ago at another industry trade show. Our board of directors met, and we talked at that point about the fact that we have over 150 hours of training on the Natural Stone University. That training is for everything from safety to business to marketing to technical to the geology of stone. And in fact, most of our current courses in the Natural Stone Institute or university also include videos, additional reading materials. They include comprehensive exams. But we have more exciting news to share with what's being worked on and what you and the board have asked us to do. Can you share?
Well, what we're doing now is cataloging all that and breaking it down into syllabuses for different types of segments. So when you onboard a new person, you have a predefined course track for them to take the classes, get certified on, and be able to not have to sift through that 150 courses and say, well, I think you should take number 1, number 42, and number 86. We're going to go through and syllabusize that for each different segment. The next step, once we're doing that, is we're going to then push it out to our advocacy groups to poke holes in those syllabuses. What problems, what are we missing, what other content needs to be in there? Then we'll develop the courses we need to fill in those holes as well. And then the third step beyond that is to try and now get these approved through the Department of Labor as an apprenticeship program. Then you can take those to your local states, and with the backing of the National Department of Labor's approval, try to get those approved in your areas. As we've looked through various high schools and things like that, trying to get people in, a lot of them offer tax credits or other incentives for putting people through apprenticeship programs. So helping develop this will help us on the local level at a regular old stone shop be able to take a more finished program to the resources to try to get to those kids, to get to those workers before they get swept away into other industries. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to get them, as soon as we can, get them interested in our industry, get them trained and useful to us.
To break it down, you think, how many of us went to school and here's the track for political science major, here's the track for history and accounting and business. Now think in terms of here's the track for fabricators, installers, stone distributors, and so forth. Just go down the line of every segment of our industry. That's what's in development right now. Katie, perspective.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about listening to, Jim mentioned the surveys, and a big concern for everyone is labor shortages and, bringing up the next level of people into the industry. So, the Natural Stone Institute's working so hard to create these programs that, everyone can use. And honestly, the wood and tile industries already have these apprenticeship programs in place. So we've been partnering with them, and it's really, just in general, it'll be a great resource for our industry when it's over.
Buddy?
Yeah, the fact that they're all separated in the industry segment will make it very, very easy for whether you're a countertop fabricator, a quarry, or a restoration professional or whatever, that like Dwayne said, you don't have to go searching for this one, that one, or the other one to, provide for your staff.
So as we transition all of the learning that we've developed, and to Dwayne's point, we don't have everything there. So we're going to be asking members of the industry to say, I love the direction you're going, but we really need classes on this, this, and this to better complement. So Michael, we've been talking about apprenticeship, and I said at the start, what are we doing for workforce development? This was the first one. What's the next one?
Yeah. Well, this is all part of a process that was identified, 4 years ago as a strategic goal, trying to address labor shortage and what's the future of the industry. So this is the process that we're working on, and one of the new ones is, how do we attract kids at the high school level, get them interested in our industry, or college level kids? So we've developed also a internship program that can be administered by anybody that wants to invite a class in or share it with their local high school or college, that gives them basically some exposure to the industry, what it's about. And it's all set up for you, templates, assignments, feedback forms, and we're just launching this. So what we're encouraging, we'd like to encourage people to try and use it, experiment with it, give us feedback, what's good, what doesn't work, what do you like, what don't you like, and continue to develop this so we can nurture young people and get them really interested in it. Because as Katie mentioned a few times, when you get into this industry, it becomes a passion. It's, when you get a real passionate approach to it, and that's what we want to create with young people, having them exposed to it. Because most of us, if you haven't been introduced to it through family, you've kind of come across it by accident. You've come into the industry, exposed to it, and then get totally immersed in it. So what we want to do is expose that to the younger kids and see if we can attract some of them into the industry.
Thanks, Mike, for introducing that internship program. And I just want to echo, if any of you would like to look at it, let us know. We'd love for you to look at it. Bob, perspective.
Well, I think what Mike said is true. I have a lot of guys who work for me that got into this industry by accident. Their father might have been an electrician, he might have been a plumber, and they said they don't want to do what their father does, so they become a stone setter. They learn their trade at a trade school, and they find out that this is something that they like. So we have to make sure that, if there's trade schools near your home, that they know all about our industry. If you can get involved, or somebody else who can get involved, because it's really amazing sometimes when I'm with young guys, even middle-aged, old guys, they completely got into this industry by accident. You tell the story. You love to tell the story about showing up on the job when you were 20 years old.
Yeah, a guy he told me, come back with some boots, and you got a job. And I was like a union bricklayer who never laid a brick in his life.
Yeah.
And, I sometimes say if the electricians were hiring that day, I might be driving a van with a light bulb on the side of it,
Yes. Anyway, that's in your spare time. You can do that.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, the point is that, we have a template from the Women in Stone that came up with something that you can give to students, to young people that are interested in getting into our industry, because a lot of them do get into it just by accident. They just something that they might not even know what natural stone is all about, but they something they attract to, and we got to keep them in it.
Bob mentioned that this internship program was actually developed by our Women in Stone group. It's a great advocacy group. They, in fact, also have a mentorship program. So if you have young professionals in your company that you would like to have paired up with an industry veteran that's not from your company, it's been a great coaching and mentoring tool. So Katie, we've talked about apprenticeship programs, an internship program, but there's a third program you want to share.
Yeah, so the Women in Stone Steering Committee had this great idea to do some promotional videos, kind of showing like a day in the life of. And again, like Bob mentioned, most of us just kind of like woke up and we're in it, right? So to try to really give a true depiction of what does it mean to go work for a stone company or a fabricator. There's so many more facets than just, selling or delivering stone or installing it. And that's what, makes the industry so, vivacious and gets people so passionate about it. So it's the first of many videos the Women in Stone has put together, and hopefully will be a resource if you know someone or someone is thinking about a career in the natural stone industry, it could be a resource for you.
And we actually have one of our steering committee group members with us. Allison's been helping with the videos. Allison, thanks for all the work you're doing with that. So y'all were introduced to our panelists. I want to introduce them in a slightly different way, if I may. Bob Zavagno was the 2020 Board President of the Natural Stone Institute. Mike Pico, Board President 21. Buddy Antra, Board President 22. Dwayne Nakan, Board President 23. Katie Jensen, Board President 24. So you have in front of you the leadership for our industry. And so now it's our time to open it up to any questions that you might have about any of the initiatives that we've been talking about, or just things that you would like to see your industry association focus on in the months to come. So any questions from the audience? If none, I at least got to give them a little kudo for thank you for their leadership. Any
Or the
questions?
years to come. Not just the months to come, the years to come.
Years to come. Any questions from the audience? Yes, 1 second.
Hi, I was actually trying to look for an Instagram page from you guys. Do you have one for the Institute? Because I think that one of the things that you were talking about was education within the younger community, and the Instagram and doing takeovers, like kind of what you were describing. I also know, like, I'm based out of New York, and there's this great company called Rye Marble, and it's like these two brothers, and they also kind of got into it because of family, and they're doing all these educational videos, but spotlighting kind of like the young and up and coming group could be something that's really great. Because if you're trying to pull architects and the younger generation, like, the website right now is honestly a little unapproachable. So I think that doing something more in the Instagram and younger space could be something that could highlight that in order to bring in more of the young people to educate them on stone. So the Instagram right now, like, is it just posts or takeovers or just like the educational element of it? Like, what are you guys doing with that, and how are you going to grow it?
Yeah, you can
I'll take that
Jim.
one. So yes, we do have an Instagram page. It tends to be, at this point, mostly about repost of articles that have been published on Use Natural Stone. But you shared some great ideas, so can I get your card afterwards? And because who?
I was going to say too, I'm a Cornell alum, and our architecture school there is like gigantic, so I would try approaching Cornell to get into them and try to like sneak into the educational program.
Absolutely. So two people I want to introduce you to. Amy manages our Instagram page, so I want to connect you with her. Daisha also manages, she's here at the trade show, our student kits. So stop by our booth and we can talk about Cornell, but we want to make that connection. Other questions or comments?
I'd like to ask, the audience if they have any experience like we were talking about with their local high schools or colleges or VOTEC schools or anything. Feel free to share it with us, even positive and negative. So that will help us, to further develop what we're trying to do with internships and apprenticeships.
And everybody who's in this business, some companies have I always tell the people who work for me, everybody has a business development person. People have business development. And I tell them, everybody in this industry has to be business development. You have to constantly tell these architects, designers, owners, how great natural stone is. And I sometimes see things, people come to my office. I had a guy come last week from Germany and showed me what the Germans are doing as far as showing architects the value of the carbon put out by glass and the LEED put out by us. And it's just like, I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, we should put that on the cover of our Building Stone magazine. That should be the cover. That's just amazing what a great thing natural stone is for,
On the screen, I forgot to put this slide up, but we talked about where's all this education going to be housed, and the easiest website address to remember is uofstone.org, or you can also find it. But we talked about the 150 hours, we talked about breaking it down by industry segment. This is where it's going to be housed. So look for that. Appreciate the suggestions on Instagram, and any of you that can help us get student kits in, by all means. But we talked about what's coming next. But Michael, you are our surprise guest. We highlighted you. you know, if there's no other questions, we're going to let we've got one more question. We're going to let our board president say a final farewell and invite you down to the booth.
Hello, thank you for the insights today. Very great information, and thank you for all of these resources. My question is a little bit more general. Bob mentioned that, alternative materials are, becoming more of a use.
Sorry, can you put your mic a little closer, please?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
So my question is, Bob mentioned that, people are moving toward alternative material, and I just wanted to see why do you think that is? Like all of you, do you guys have 1 to 2 reasons why people are moving to alternative materials? Katie mentioned one, the shipping or freight, and the second one is also education. But do you guys think there are other things that we should be moving toward? In terms of innovation, anything that you guys can give a
They have
comment
big
on?
money behind their marketing.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah, that's one big reason.
part of it, and we've been talking about it, and you've probably heard the term a few times, is telling our story. We're not telling our story good enough. And to Buddy's point, there's huge marketing efforts out there by the big porcelain companies and the sintered stones, and I'm not bashing these products, because I think they've got a place in the industry. There's we engineer some of those products. We're not just doing natural stone, but I think as an industry we're not telling our story enough, and the opportunity is the sustainability portion, like Bob's saying. That should be front and center right now, because if they're looking for true sustainability, carbon footprint, on the impact on the environment, the amount of energy it takes to produce a slab compared to almost any other manufactured product is very, very low. So we have a big advantage there that we need to really capture and educate the design community on the benefits of that. Long term, there's 500-year-old buildings built in stone that are still
standing.
There's sustainability, isn't it? How many other products can boast that kind of sustainability? So we got to tell our story better.
But he asked a great question, and I have talked to a lot of people. Why? Why did we lose what we had before? And it's my opinion that two things. Architects like things to change. They don't want everything to look the same forever, so they go into other things. And some of these other materials, even though they're engineered materials, they've been able to do things with them that have been very attractive to architects.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the very first time in the late 80s where I stood on a floor slab when a building was being built in Atlanta. I was on the 55th floor, and they were putting the curtain wall up. And I went down a floor below, and you could look right off the floor slab like you were floating in air, because you had these big pieces of glass that they weren't able to manufacture before then. And glass took off because people then they realized it got to cost a lot of money to heat them. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And that's what we have to tell people when it comes to other materials. Just because they can do it doesn't mean they should do it.
And I think the other side, they're kind of talking on the commercial end of it, but in terms of the homeowner side, I don't know that homeowners are looking at the sustainability of it so much, but they're looking at, they go on every TV show, they go into all those things, and all they see is these alternate products now, because the collective marketing budget of these 3 or 4 largest engineered stone companies is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. When you get in, because you're dealing with big, massive corporations. You get into the stone side, and you get a big company like Katie is nothing compared to some of those companies. So we're such a fragmented industry because it is a natural product. It can be brought out of the ground in multiple locations. It can be shipped through different distributors, different fabricators. We're all much smaller entities as opposed to a single source delivery like a lot of those. So the marketing side of that, their budgets just dwarf what we can do. Now, from a fabricator side, what we try to do is we just try to make sure a customer's buying what's right for them. Most customers who come to us looking for the alternate products, if we ask them, well, why are you looking at that? What's your concern? What are you trying to do? 9 out of 10 times, their answer is, I was told granite would do this, or marble would do that, and I don't want that, so this is why I want this now. So a big thing we try to do is educate those customers about the realities of the material, and then let them pick the one that's best for them. And most of the time, they end up going back towards a natural stone. Now, granted, I sell both. You know, if they pick one or the other, I still get the sale. But I hate the idea of a customer buying something because they're afraid of something. You know, I was told marble's gonna etch, so I'm afraid to buy that. I'll settle for this. I want to make sure they understand the realities of the product and buy what's ultimately the best thing for them.
That's also part of the reason why it was so important as an industry that we take ownership of the sustainability standard. And we have a serious conversation, Michael, about producing life cost analysis, you know, and all the EPDs and so forth. So this is all coming to benefit the industry. Allison, you had a question.
A little both. Thank you guys so much for doing this. You know, I grew up in a small town in Southwest Virginia, and as you guys are up there talking about the opportunities of education and training in trade schools, it's almost making me tear up a little bit, because I wish we could, you know, target some of the areas of America that need to put people to work and actually be able to train them and get them to work in the construction industry. And something that I'm a part of another group called National Association of Remodeling that has been targeted for many, many years. And so, you know, I hope that we can maybe even build some partnerships with some of these other groups that are out there. But I did want to throw in a question and a conundrum, if you will, not to change the dynamic of the platform we've been talking about. But as we are going into a lot of these logistical challenges, you know, one thing I think that could help save our industry is to get the fabricators and the natural stone gurus of this world to also partner in getting out of this race to the bottom. We have this dreaded...
Yeah, the race to the bottom.
I really wanted to bring that up today for this panel. We have an opportunity in front of us right now with the increase in cost and freight. For the first time in my career, you know, it's not about these guys coming to me and wanting the cheapest price. They just want to find their material. And we're going to be in that bubble for quite some time. And I think that we have this huge opportunity in front of us to stop getting out of the who's got the cheapest price game and more about what products are we putting in front of our customers and how we're presenting that. So I'd love to just try to change that dynamic.
Well, I snarkily think I'm going to ask some of my customers that drive up in a very expensive car, why didn't you get the Chevrolet or the Toyota version of that? And you know, when they're bargaining and stuff, I stay away from. I know what I need to keep my lights on. I know what I need to have a peanut butter sandwich at the end of the week. So I'm not going to sell a job just to have something to do for a week. You know, I could sit in my office and read a paperback, you know, if that's the case. But there are those that do. And there are those that may not be as, they may not, you know, deal with all of the, you know, conforming to the insurance or the city or the government regulations that they need to. They cut those corners. Those who use contract labor for most of their stuff when they really should be keeping it in-house, and they cut corners on those, you know, in those situations. We have the accreditation, the fabricator accreditation program, where you know, we go through a rigorous checklist to, you know, make sure that, you know, I've been through it and it made me a better fabricator. And you know, for whatever reasons a company may go through it, you know, it's out there. And if we push that, and one of the things we are doing is we are getting that accreditation into like spec books and websites and things like that. That's one of the things we are working on behind the scenes right now. So when somebody is looking to do a project and we're trying to get the architects, you know, we're going to get the word out where the architects will say, you need to hire an accredited fabricator for this or an accredited installer. And you know, they're few and far between. There are those who are quality installers and fabricators, but they haven't gone through the process. So that's one way that we can remedy that. And it's, you know, You can't, it's difficult to make everybody do it.
Right.
However, we can do our part and make that accreditation attractive to other fabricators and attractive, more importantly, to the design community, so they select this accredited or certified in other industries or whatever they may call it.
I think another big issue we have in terms of raising prices in our industry is the dampening effect we see through big box stores. In the past year, how much is the price of a 2x4 going up? You go into Lowe's and the price of the 2x4 went up, didn't it? We're having all these pricing, labor, freight issues. You walk into a big box store, how much is the price of a granite going up? 0. So why is that? But that is the perception that customers out in the market see. They go in and they see a price there, and then they can go shop whatever fabricator they want, but they know they can go back over to the store and get that price plus the 20% promo, and that's what they're expecting to pay. And that is I think one of the big things as an industry, we need to try to continue to move that needle somewhat, because that's really, I think, what hits a lot of us on the consumer side.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing up the topic. We have just a couple minutes, and we need to head down to the show floor. Michael, you are our special guest. We're going to let you close it out.
Yeah, put
close
me
out
on
our
the spot
session.
here. Special guest, unprepared, just came in. Anyways,
No pressure.
thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate all of you being here today. As we said, we need to tell our story. We really rely on all the membership, all the people in the industry to share some of the material that we have, go on our website, educate the design community about the benefits of the materials. We're going to try and provide as much of that information and those tools to you and your staff that you can share with them when they're going out to meet architects, builders, homeowners, that they have some tools and some good information that they can share. To Dwayne's point, to make an educated decision, not just based on marketing and what they're saying on those, do-it-yourself home shows and all the design shows on TV that are, in a lot of cases promoting false information, but that's what the consumer's seeing, and they're not being properly educated. So we need to collectively do this together and educate the architects and people out there that are specifying and selecting the materials that in the end are going to be used on our buildings. So thanks again for coming and attending. Our booth is 4627. It's a very casual setup, so it's more of a meeting place to discuss and have some conversation around the industry. So I encourage, if you got some time, pop by the booth during the show, and some of us will be around during that.
We're going to stick around for a few minutes to answer any other questions that maybe you wanted to go in more in depth or wanted to ask in a more private setting. But please join me in thanking all of our leadership for their help.
Good job.
Done. Thank you. No music. Thank you. Wait a minute, 20.